So we're it's Hey Adar Bet Tafshin Ayin Tet 5779. We are in Shmuel Aleph, chapter 3, verse 1. Gimel Aleph, right? We learned last time, in the past couple of weeks, we learned the story of Eli, a Kohen, the high priest, and his two sons. His two sons created a business out of being in the Bet HaMikdash, and God did not really like it, and as a result, the punishment was they will die on the same day. But the original plan was to have Eli's family being the high priests for like ever. And the high priesthood will be taken away from them. Not only that the high priesthood will be taken away from them, they're all going to die young. The offspring of Eli will all die young. They're going to hit 20 and that's it. And they're not going to be able to learn because of that, because you need the years. They're not going to be able to be leaders and rabbis, and not going to be able to serve much in the Mishkan, in the Mikdash. And they were trying to aggregate more food, more wealth by working in Bet HaMikdash and acting the way they were acting. And as a result, they will be poor, and they're not going to have much money to work with, and they will end up begging their brethren, the other Kohanim who has their shift in the Mikdash, to let them in and to help them, and they will be told no, because I'm not going to share my work of God with you. Your family didn't really appreciated it as much, so now you just go figure it out. So the messenger of this of the message of the prophecy from God was Shmuel's father, and we ended up last time. We ended up at the end of the prophecy, which I just summarized. Dennis asked a very, very important question, an interesting question. And the question was, and I will paraphrase it, how come we faulting people that were not born for the sins of those who are here in front of us? How come we are punishing all of the children and grandchildren, great-grandchildren until the end of time of Eli? It's just not fair. Why are we doing that? So there are a couple of lines of that we're going to go into before we actually going to continue with the chapter 3, because this is a very fundamental question that has to do with us today and with all the Jews all the time. So the first place I turned to was the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. In Rosh Hashanah, there is in the Gemara 3:1. There is a whole discussion of Rosh Hashanah is all about repentance, right? That we're praying to God to help us, to save us, to forgive us, and what are the parameters of the prayers that God is accepting, and there are some verses that says that God will not accept. So I'm not going to go into the entire discussion, just to mention briefly, there is a difference if it's a single person or a community. A single person, you're on your own, and if you're not meriting, you don't merit forgiveness, or you don't merit that God will listen to you, that God doesn't listen to you. With the community, there is more weight to it, and even individuals that are part of the community and them individually don't deserve, but because they are coming with the whole group, with the petition of Am Israel in general, they're being accepted. And then there is another distinction. The distinction is, and all of those distinctions are rooted in psukim, certain psukim that says that God will forgive, and another psukim says God will not. There is a distinction between after the verdict and before the verdict. When someone is doing something wrong, if the verdict was not rendered yet, they can, the gavel didn't hit the whatever it's called on the judge's desk. So the verdict was not rendered. So there is a way to change. There is a way out. After the verdict was given, this is it, it's like in this world, you appealed and you appealed and you appealed and it was upheld and finished. There is nobody else to, there are far out miracles of a pardon, but on a regular basis, that's, a verdict is a verdict. And in the situation with Eli, there was a verdict, they messed up and the verdict was given. But that's still not answering Dennis's question, why is it forever? Punish those two guys, punish their father, punish their children, their first uncle once removed, whatever, but it's not why for all times.
Even to 10 generations.
Forever generations, right?
No,
that's what it says. Yeah, that's what it says.
This is unprecedented.
Right, it's unprecedented. Right. So, so the Gemara is addressing this our story, and he's saying that in our story there is something special. In our story there was a shvuah. There was an oath. God made an oath. It was really touching him in a specific way, the particular problem, the particular sin that they did, and he made an oath, and an oath you can't forgive. It's he was, that was the judgment. So we're starting to see that there is something very fundamental and different here that's not happening in other cases. Meaning, in other cases, you do have some sort of a way out after generation 2, 3, whatever, up to 4, essentially. That's what we're saying. That God is remembering the sins of the kids are being punished for the sins of the parents up to 4 generations. Shlishim v'revi'im, right? That's poked avot avot. So, but beyond that, there is a way out. But here there was an oath made. So something very strong, very severe happened here. So what is that happened here? That's one thing. And another thing, there is a pasuk which we will learn later on in this chapter. And the pasuk will say that nothing is going to clean that damage that you did. And that you won't be able, no matter how many sacrifices, how many korbanot you'll bring, you're not going to be able to overcome it. So the rabbis here are learning this pasuk. It's only the korbanot, the sacrifices, that you can bring as many as you want. They're not going to clear the slate. They're not going to fix the problem. But there is something else that will fix the problem, and that is learning Torah. So if someone learns Torah enough, and they are from the descendants of Eli, they will be forgiven. Now, why not sacrifices? So that's simple. What was the sin? The sin was that they were working in Bet HaMikdash as the, master of ceremony for all the sacrifices, and they were grabbing more than they deserved, right? So you messed up the sacrificial offerings, all the offering, the work, the avodah in Bet HaMikdash, in the temple, that has to do with sacrifices. You messed up, so that cannot clean. Cannot fix your problem. If the same thing that is the cure, this is what you messed up, you can't. They won't cure you anymore. So therefore, sacrifices are not going to help, but learning Torah will. Now, the Gemara is going on to explain that there were, and I think you have it in the English over there, that there were two gentlemen that were descendant of Eli Cohen. One of them, his name was Rabba, and another one is Abaye, right? And they were the giants of the Talmud, Talmudic giants. They are appearing in the Talmud hundreds, maybe even thousands of times, probably hundreds of times. And they were both from the house of Eli. And they both died relatively young. Rabba died when he was 40, and Abaye died when he was 60. So the Gemara is saying, how come they didn't young when they were 20, but like the promise in that, because they learned Torah. So why 40 and 60, and what's the numbers? So there is a very interesting discussion. It's like a school of thoughts. The Abaye and Rabba disagreed in the Gemara about hundreds of things. So this is one thing that they disagreed on. There is a famous Mishnah in the Ethics of the Fathers. Pirkei Avot. It says that there are three pillars of Shlosha Amudim Ha'olam Omed, right? The three pillars in the world are Torah, Avodah, and Gemilut Chasadim. Learning Torah, worshiping God, which today we translate as davening. In those days, they were translated as working in Bet HaMikdash, right? That's the Avodah. And Gemilut Chasadim, it's good deeds, chesed, right? Do chesed with other people. So the question, the disagreement between them is, how are those pillars organized? According to Rava, the pillars are organized one above the other, and they're enumerated in importance, in the order of their importance. So the most important one is Torah. The second important one is Avodah. The third important one is good deeds, Gemilut Chasadim. The house of Eli messed up in the middle one, right? In Avodah, in the work of Bet HaMikdash. So according to Rabbah, the pillar below it, which is good deeds, cannot fix what's above it. The only thing that can fix what's above it is the higher one, which is Torah. And he got 20 years for living, for being a human being. That's as you know, he couldn't get more because they messed up the middle pillar. They doubled it. He doubled his life by learning Torah enough, learning enough Torah. So the Torah doubled his allotment. Instead of 20, he got 40. He got to 40, died. Abaye's opinion was different. That those pillars are not sequentials, are not standing in one above the other. They are horizontal, and the world is standing on all three of them. And therefore, if one of the three is broken, it's a table of 3 legs. If one leg is broken, the other fortify the other 2 legs, and you'll be okay. So he fortified both. He learned and also was very, very famous for his work in Chesed, for his Gemilut Chasadim. So he got the 20 that he got because he's a human being, right? Because he couldn't get any more than that because of the Avodah, messing up of the Avodah. But he doubled that with the pillar of Torah, and he had added another 20 with the pillar of Gemilut Chasadim. So he got to 60.
What's the significance of each 20 for each
20 one? Is the year that in Judaism that a person becomes an adult, a full-fledged adult. Not 18 and not 21. 20. Okay? That's why the Levites are starting to work in Bet HaMikdash when they're 20.
As opposed to 13, which is...
13 is for mitzvot, but you have an 18 is for 15 is to learn Gemara, and 18 is to get married, and 20 is an official adult, full-fledged adult. Nobody beyond 20 can say, I didn't know, you know? It's until... You're responsible. Yeah, you're responsible. So that is... So one answer to you, Dennis, is that it is possible to overcome the problem by learning and by doing tzedakah, and by doing good chesed with other people, and that will overcome the problem. But it's still not fully understood. What's missing? What's missing here is why someone who is from the family of Eli need to go the extra mile? I mean, people who don't learn Torah at all live till they're 120, no problem. Why do they start with a disadvantage? So now the simple answer is that because of the disadvantage, they now have their DNA is different. Until now, God gave them extra help. God gave them extra tools to deal with. Now you're on your own. Okay? Because you're coming with a damaged DNA, you're on your own. What can you do? I mean, somebody has God forbid, a disease, that's what God created, it's the luck of the person. So they were born, a baby was born, they didn't do anything, didn't do harm to anyone, but they have one letter, messed up in their DNA, and their whole life is messed up. So that is the simple answer. But then I saw something which is really phenomenal that really helped me way, way, way more than what we discussed until now. There is another Gemara. Another Midrash, that it's actually quoted in the Gemara in Masechet Makot. It says that there were 4 decrees of Moshe that were canceled by 4 different prophets after him. I'm not going to go into all 4 of them. I'm just going to count one of them. One decree of Moshe that says, Moshe says, Poked avot al banim, that there is this concept that the fathers will affect adversely the luck or the life of the kids. If the parents didn't act properly, the kids will suffer. Now, why did he make this decree? He made this decree because he believed that Am Yisrael can all come to the time of Mashiach whole. And he didn't want to leave anybody behind. So imagine an ancestor of someone messed up badly, and then they died. So now they're going to come to the end of days, or they're not going to be able to come to the end of days. They're missing pieces. They're missing. They're damaged. So Moshe created this system that the kids can be helping the parents. If some of the punishment or some of the fix, some of the kapara, the how do you say kapara in English? The
atonement?
Not atonement, the expungement, I don't know, whatever, the fix. How do you say it? Anyway, so the kapara for the parents come through the children. And the children may suffer for it, but it comes through the children. So that's the system that Moshe created. Now, what happened as a result of that system? Moshe didn't create just a system of people that the punishment is going to continue to future generations. He also created a fundamental connection between the parents and the children, for good and the bad. He created that connection by saying that if the parents were good, were super good, like our ancestors, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, that automatically helps us because they are connected to us. So it needs to go both ways. If they're helping us automatically, something that Avraham Avinu helped somebody, some traveler in the desert 3,000 years ago. It helps me now here. Great, thank you. But if some of the other ancestors later on did something wrong, it should also carry, right? So, because the relationship should work both ways. Now, what happened at the time of Yecheskel? Yecheskel declared that הנפש אחותה היא תמות, that the soul that actually did the sin, that soul is going to die. But no one is going to die for someone else's sins. The soul will die for its sins. So he basically severed. What happened here? At the time of Yecheskel, so it seems like there is no connection between the parents and the children, right? So what happened that to change that connection? What severed that connection? So what happened was reality sets in. Moshe Rabbeinu was an optimist. Moshe Rabbeinu saw all of the merit that Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov amassed, and he knew that they have a lot of merit to carry the entire nation for many, many, many years. And he was hoping that by the time Mashiach comes, there will still be enough. What happened is, reality sets in, and the Jews did, the wrong things, and the merit ran out. There was a big bank account, and it depleted. Abraham deposited, and Yitzchak deposited, and Yaakov deposited, and that's it. And then we kept drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing, and it ran out. That's why we lost the temple. We lost the temple because we lost the merit. The merit was not enough anymore to cover up our messes. The damage that we did was too great, and we didn't have enough to draw from. So what did Yecheskel do at that moment? At that moment he says, listen, now that we see that the hope that Moshe Rabbeinu had didn't come true, and reality is that they can't help us anymore, our ancestors, automatically. It's not that they can't help us. They can help us now too, but not automatically. It used to be that it's an automatic thing. A Jew does something wrong, they go to the bank, virtual, spiritual bank, draw from what our ancestors deposited, and that's it, and continue with the married life, right? When that depleted, when there is nowhere to draw from, we have to now ask God to remember. Can you please remember the time when the bank account was full? That's why we're mentioning on Rosh Hashanah Zichronot. Please remember, because it's not automatic anymore. We need to sort of get God to thinking in that direction and remind Him, because there is no automatic funds that can come from our merit bank account. So Yecheskel said, so from that point on, everybody's on their own. A person who did something wrong will have to suffer, and those who didn't will not. At the time of Eli here, Dennis, and that's the answer to you, it's exactly between the decree of Moshe and the repeal of Yecheskel. So at that time, there was still a strong connection with the forefathers. So God said, listen, you messed up. You are now going to be connected to all of your children and grandchildren until the end of time, just like our forefathers, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, are connected to us for all time. And you messed up, so they're going to suffer from it. They're not going to have the bank account to draw on because you depleted your branch of the family, and that's it. No funds in your account. Come Yecheskel later, a few hundred years from where we are now, Yecheskel comes and says, listen, we have to change the system a little bit, because otherwise we're all going to die. The Jewish people are not going to survive because there are no funds in any of our accounts. So now we can't have this connection. So from that point on, everything is able, even decrees that happened before, that really were supposed to last till the end of time, they are no longer applying as severely, because Yecheskel repealed the connection between the parents and the children. So to answer your question then, it says, in effect, it's no longer applied. And they were damaged for a long period of time, and not many of them were left because they all died young. So not many of them were left. But if there are some that left, and they work on learning Torah, just like we all need to learn Torah, because we all don't have this extra funds, extra merit of our ancestors, so it's not as severe. They can make it.
So why
I don't know if it helped you.
So why didn't that? So why didn't that repeal under Yechezkel help Rabbah and Abaye?
So it did. It did help them by giving them an opening of learning Torah. Without that,
But they still lived short lives.
they still lived shorter lives. It didn't clear 100% of it. Okay, when a person is born with a damaged DNA, there is that much that the doctors can do. All right, but the
So
point.
you're saying they should have died at
So
20.
yeah. But that's anyway. The bottom line, there is hope, and don't if somebody did something wrong, don't anyway. It's late, so let's start. So the next chapter 3, I'll give you a quick overview. And then we'll dive a little deeper. It's talking about the inaugural prophecy of Shmuel, the first prophecy of Shmuel. And we will see a lot of parallels between his first prophecy and Moshe's first prophecy. Moshe's first prophecy, as we recall, was when the burning bush, right? The bush was burning and he was looking from afar, not sure what he's seeing. He got close, and then God started talking to him from the bush, and a voice that he heard. And there are a lot of similarities as to how it happened with Shmuel. We know from other sources that Shmuel and Moshe were sort of the first and second most important prophets that we had, so there is a connection between them, special connection, so there is similarity there. Now, it's also specifying the official demise of Eli. Now God is not talking to him anymore, or as much, and God is talking to the next guy in line, to Shmuel. Eli thought that his kids are going to take his place, but no, it's going to be Shmuel. And to his great benefit, to his great credit, he didn't. He went with the plan. He did not fight it. It's very hard, I'm sure, for a father to see that his sons are doomed, are not going to, not only not going to succeed him, but going to be, basically died because of their deeds. And he did not. He helped Shmuel in his becoming a prophet.
So how old is Shmuel at this?
Shmuel at that point is a teenager. He's a nar. He's a teenager.
So he's he's almost like a ward or a foster child of Eli, right?
He's right. He was brought to the to Shiloh when he was 2, and he was raised under Eli's wings as a Levite. Eli was the Kohen. He was a Levi. Eli taught him all the taught him the ropes, whatever he could, and
It says in here he was 40 years old when he received his first prophecy.
so that's one of the opinions that he was 40, and he was called Nar because also Yoshua was also 40, and he was called Nar. Va'anar Yoshua is it says that Va'anar Yoshua that at the time that when Moshe Rabbeinu took him under his wings, he was a kid, and the calculation is that he was 40 at the time. So they draw. There is a we draw this connection, but it's not It's not agreed by everybody, because Shmuel passed away when he was 52. Shmuel became the head of the Jews when he was 40. And he led the Jews Eli died when Shmuel was 40. This is not the day that it happened. This seems to be happening earlier on. So let's just see how it goes. וענה שמואל משרת את השם לפני אלי. So וענה Shmuel, the boy, the teenager, the young one, Shmuel, he's serving God לפני אלי, in front of Eli. What is in front of Eli? In front of Eli, that now we're saying that Shmuel has surpassed Eli. He is in front of him. Eli used to be the teacher. Eli used to be the person who took him under his wings. So Shmuel was under him. Now he surpassed him. That's the day. Now that's also implying that Shmuel is inexperienced. The word nar means, he's young. He's still he's inexperienced. And we will see later that he wasn't recognizing that God is talking to him. He thought that Eli is talking to him. And it was a whole miscommunication there for a while until they straightened it out. And the reason for it is because he was young. ודבר השם היה יקר בימים ההם. And the word of God was very precious in those days. אין חזון נפרד. There is no common vision. What happened is we had periods at the time in the history of our people that we had a lot of prophets, multiple prophets, and a lot of prophecies. Even if you had one prophet, they received a lot of prophecies, a lot of direction from God. In those days, it wasn't common. Prophecy was scarce, and Eli just received a prophecy from Shmuel's father, from Elkanah, that day, and he thought, this is it. I mean, how many we didn't have in several years? We didn't have a prophecy. We finally got one. Can be that we have another one now. So it was really, really uncommon at the time, and therefore it was very precious. So on that day, the day that Elkanah delivered the message to Eli, at the end of that day there was a night, so on that night, ve'eli shochev bimkomo, and Eli was lying down in his spot. Now what does that mean, was lying down in his spot? You're not really allowed to lie down in the Bet HaMikdash itself. There was a special dorm for the Kohanim, and they were there. Over there they were allowed to lie down and they were allowed to rest. That same dorm, that same place was used for the Kohen Gadol before Yom Kippur. He had to be in seclusion for 7 days, and he had to practice. He couldn't sleep at home. So there was a special room over there for the Kohanim, for Kohen Gadol to rest. So that's where Eli was staying. I wanted to turn your attention to the trop, to the ta'amim. How do you say in English? Cantillations, right. The cantillation. So there is, under the word bimkomo, there is an etnachta. What is an etnachta? Etnachta is it's a comma. It's a big one. It's like it's almost a full stop. It's the strongest stop below the end of the pasuk. You have an end pasuk, that's the final stop, and this is and most of the psukim, 99.9% of the psukim has a comma in them. So this comma is here that Eli was lying in his spot. We will see in the next pasuk or a couple of psukim that the etnachta, the comma, moves around in a strange way, and it changes the meaning of the pasuk, right? If you put the comma in the wrong place, or in the different place, it changes the meaning. So, ve'enav echelu kehot. So the eyes of Eli became became weak, became dark. He couldn't see. He became instantly, as soon as the prophecy came that he's not going to be able to continue, that affected him, his health immediately. And that was known, that he suddenly got this, not only got the prophecy, but he got this, I don't know who knew that he got the prophecy. I don't think that was published, that was private to him. But the fact that he was sick, that he he had some eye condition, that was known to Shmuel, because Shmuel was his, his boy, his best man, right? So Shmuel knew that his eyes are weak. Lo yuchal lirot, and he couldn't see anymore. This is also a symbolic couldn't see. He couldn't see anymore the words of God. He couldn't. His mind became dark as well, because he sort of went down from his level of being the leader of the Jews forever, and now it's not. The forever part was removed, so his spiritual level was diminished, and so that's the as a result he couldn't see. He couldn't see physically with his eye, but he also couldn't see as much with his mind. There is an interesting explanation in the Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim, is giving some explanations of how do prophecies come to the person. So some prophecies, he says, are an idea is being planted in the mind of the person. Most prophecies, an idea is being planted. A prophet thinks something, that makes sense, and that's so. That is the most common level of prophecies. Then there is a second level, which they start seeing things, imagining things in their mind. A vision come to them, and they see something, and that's a higher level of prophecy. And then there is another kind of prophecy. I don't know which one is high or low, and that is that they hear the voice of God. They hear physical voice of God, not a recording. They hear the physical voice of God. So it appears that Eli until now would see visions. That's how he was receiving the prophecy. And now when his eyes were darkened, his visual, his virtual eyes also were darkened, and he couldn't see anymore. Vener Elokim terem ichbeh. And the candle of God was not extinguished. So what are we talking about here? So according to the Abarbanel, he has a fantastic explanation about this whole section. We are talking here about when God spoke to Shmuel. Shmuel was a Levite. He couldn't be in the inner circle of Bet HaMikdash, not allowed, only Kohanim are allowed. So he was at a perimeter, was outside of where Eli was. But he saw the light of the candles that were burning inside the holy. The holy had candles, and they would burn all night. It appears that the prophecy came early in the morning, right before the candles were extinguished. The candles were lasting 24 hours, and they will always be replaced early in the morning together, as the sun rises. It was one of the first things that was done. The candle would be lit. So the candle from last night was still on, and it didn't extinguish yet. Wasn't extinguished yet. So, and the Rambam is saying, the Abarbanel is saying that this is the best time for prophecy, when the mind is clear from the nonsense of the day, after a person contemplated all night, thought about all kinds of holy things. That's the best time for prophecy. And we'll see later on in Nevi'im that indeed early morning this is a common prophecy time. V'Shmuel shochev. And Shmuel was also lying. Now, if we didn't look at the trap, if we didn't look at the te'amim, we can read it with the next words. V'Shmuel shochev be'echal Hashem. And Shmuel was lying in the sanctuary. But there is a problem with it. Because he's not allowed to lie in the sanctuary. Nobody is allowed to lie in the sanctuary. Definitely not a Levite. So Shmuel couldn't have been lying in Echal Hashem. So the Abarbanel is saying, many others are saying that this is why we have the etnachta here under the word shochev. The comma is after the word shochev. That Shmuel was lying. He was also lying down and contemplating, thinking. He was lying where? He was lying outside in the dorm of the Levites, where he belongs. Now, what was he thinking about? He was thinking about Echal Hashem, Asher Sham Aron Elokim. He was thinking about was imagining and dreaming and thinking about the Ark of the Covenant, the godly Ark that exists in the Holy, which he personally didn't really get a chance to touch or be around because it's out of reach for most people. So that's what he was doing. And at that moment, Vayikra Hashem el Shmuel vayomer hineni. So God was calling. From where was he calling? He was calling from the ark. A physical sound, like the Rambam said, like the Abarbanel says, the Abarbanel says that the physical sound came from the Ark of the Covenant straight to the ears of Shmuel, skipping over Eli, because Eli was in an inner circle. He was closer to the Ark. He should have been able to hear it, and he didn't. Only Shmuel heard it. Now, Shmuel, the Abarbanel describes it in an awesome way. Shmuel knew that Eli is in trouble because he doesn't see anymore. And he thought that he got, when somebody doesn't see, they get headaches, they get their head spins. So he thought that Eli needs his help. So right away, as soon as he hears a voice that says, Shmuel, he says, what? I'm here. And then he right away ran, the next pasuk, Vayaretz el Eli, he ran to Eli, Vayomer hineni, he repeats, I'm here, how can I help you? What's going on? Ki karatali, you called me. Now Eli did not hear the voice, just like with Moshe, there was a situation where God would talk to Moshe, and the sound will be very loud coming from the ark, and the sound stopped at the entrance of the tabernacle. So the sound was not heard outside. That was one of the miracles. The sound usually travels, but it stopped. So here too, something very similar happened, where the sound came from the ark straight to his ears, and Eli, who was closer, did not hear. So he didn't know that there is a prophecy here.
You said Eli's eyesight was failing. Maybe his hearing was also failing.
This is exactly what the Abarbanel says. He says that someone whose eyesight is bad, usually the hearing is better. And here we see that Eli's hearing was not good either. He didn't hear at least the spiritual part of it. Very good. So he comes and says, you called me. Vayomer lo karati. Shuv shcha vayelech vayishkab. No, I didn't call you. Go back, lie down, and sort of send him back in thinking. At this point, Eli have no idea that it's a prophecy, and he thinks that Shmuel is dreaming. He's hearing voices. He's he had some nightmares. I don't know. Well, I didn't call you. You're hearing voices. You're hearing things. Go back.
Doesn't he know Eli's voice? Wouldn't Hashem's voice sound different than Eli's voice?
Apparently, it was similar by design, I guess. ויוסף השם קרוא עוד שמואל. So God calls again. ויקם שמואל. So now Shmuel doesn't run because he was embarrassed the first time. You know, so now, and he doesn't scream right away, Neni, I'm here. He's taking it easier. ויקם שמואל וילך אל עלי. So now he walks to Eli. ויאמר, I'm here because he called me. הנני כי קראת לי. So then, at this, the second time, Eli knows Shmuel, and Eli realizes that there is something going on here. The first time, he didn't dream that after not having prophecies for so long, suddenly we'll have another 2 prophecies a day. We just received the prophecy from Elkanah. He didn't think that the first voice was that. But now, he's experienced, and he starts thinking, maybe there's something going on here. So now he's not just sending him, go lie down and leave me alone. He's calling him, ויאמר לא קראתי בני, שוב שכב. I didn't call you my son. Now he's talking to him much nicer, much gentler. Something is going on here. Still go to sleep. And then the Torah is mentioning exactly what's going on. The Tanakh, the next pasuk is mentioning, ושמואל טרם ידע את השם וטרם יגלה אליו דבר השם. So Shmuel didn't know yet, didn't have the experience, never had a conversation with God directly. So God never revealed himself to Shmuel yet. So now Shmuel doesn't know. So Eli knows, but Shmuel doesn't know. That's why that's why it's written here that Shmuel. Why do we say that Shmuel didn't know? Because Eli did know. Last pasuk, and then the rabbi is waiting here. Vayosef Hashem kro Shmuel bashlishit. So God called Shmuel the third time. Vayakam vayelech el Eli. So then he goes again to Eli. Vayomer hineni ki karata li. Here I am because you called me. Vayaven Eli. Then Vayaven Eli ki Hashem koreh lana. So Eli then understood, was got the confirmation that God is talking to him. That it's not just voices of dreams, and we'll see what he instructs him to do next.